And I've got one too. You can't mind your business. What's the matter with you?
Welcome to the latest episode of the Brand Shorthand Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Vandergrift, and with me is the MVP, most valuable positionist, Lorraine Kessler. Lorraine, this is our special Super Bowl ad podcast. What did you think about the game before we get to the ads?
Well, I was very worried because I wanted the Chiefs to win, and every team we've rooted for this year has lost. So it didn't look good in the first half, right? It looked pretty dismal. But that Mahomes, he's a slippery character, I'll tell you. So I was the only reason I was quasi rooting for the Chiefs is because Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles, and the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl was his team, really. And I think he's an underappreciated or underrated coach. So this, I think, gives him the status he needs. But yeah.
Well, that's good. That's a good reason. I couldn't pick out which team I was rooting for except for my former Buckeyes. And Nick Bosa had an incredible game, and Chase Young had a pretty good game as well. So those are my guys I was rooting for, but it was more on a individual level than it was a team. I was more focused on the ads, which is the topic of our conversation today.
First, I just want to comment on a couple of things about the Super Bowl because, I don't know who's listening and our viewers. And, first of all, everybody has an opinion, right? And all opinions are equal. And I like hearing from other people because they have different perspectives. And ultimately, what becomes most popular is probably the most successful because if people remember the brand,
Yes,
right? They connect the brand with the message. But this Super Bowl is, I think it was Stephen Fry, a British comedian, who did a thing in the Super Bowl. He went to one and he was like blown away. There is no stage in the world, right, like the Super Bowl that is about excess and successes and just it's unbridled capitalism. I don't care where you stand on the political spectrum. If you want to have a show that says this is what capitalism and consumerism is all about, it is the Super Bowl. So, and I always find people who really enjoy it who don't necessarily enjoy those two concepts. So I think that's funny. And it's also the event that creates the biggest conversation in the world, and that's what we're doing. We're having this conversation about it. And as we know, over the last many years, right? Big celebrities really dominate. I have to say that one of the celebrities who I think beats all the commercials, right, is Taylor Swift, right? With the
Swifties. The Swifties dominated this year. They had a bigger audience just because she was involved. And at the end of the day, the way they were merchandising her over the course of the second half of the season, it almost felt intentional. I'm kind of guessing there was something going on there that they worked that out for a relationship with Kelsey. I'm not saying it's contrived, but it feels that way.
We all know too that teaser has kind of become the orthodoxy, right? Now there's two types of teasers, and one is it's a true teaser. You don't know what the payoff's going to be till you see the spot in the Super Bowl. Some of them are just pre-releases, and they get kind of bucketed into that teaser category. So I just think that's kind of interesting to point out. So it's a big stage, and there's big opportunity, particularly for those who have a big market. But there are also really big risks, right? So I just did a little history, and I just thought I Googled before the game, what are the biggest stink bombs, right? And we might have some stink bombs this year.
President or the Kennedy's ad for president
could be considered a stink bomb, right? He's old enough to know and young enough to get it done, or something like that. And they use the old JFK song, Kennedy. Yeah, it caught my attention. I have to say that, and I guess it's a lot better than running. Why vaccinations are bad for you. So,
Did you hear? He didn't know that was running, and he apologized for it on Twitter.
Oh, really?
It was a super PAC that ran that ad. He did not see it, and then on his Twitter, he apologized because he knew it was so bad.
Like, why wouldn't you run that past the candidate? Okay, this is, oh man, the more I learn, the more I'm
It's
afraid.
scary. Talking
Afraid I
politics
be-
in
right.
2024.
But here's some stink bombs. You might remember this one. 2015, nationwide, the dead kid. Remember this one?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
geez.
okay. The child who won't ride his tricycle or never play football or soccer or whatever because he's dead because of an accident.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. CMO got fired over that. And then I think it was last year even that they had Larry David. You might remember this because you're more about this, pushing FTX, the cryptocurrency.
Oh yeah. Boy, that one was.
I mean, as it turns
Oh,
out.
yeah. Spend all this money and actually hurt your brand. It's really good
One
approach.
of the things I observed in this year's Super Bowl is almost in a way, and you're going to think this is, oh my gosh, this positionist is saying this. I almost have to throw out, in a way, the position score sheet because the environment's so different, right? That one of the things I noticed is the simpler the idea and the simpler you get to that idea in a very entertaining way. Because
Hmm.
you have to get intention, or as Bill Birnbach said, everything else is academic.
Right.
So a lot of the overtop celebrities and kind of scripts and music and play is you have to get the attention. And there's so much going on. There's so much distraction within the big game, not only with you have company and you have food and you have things going on, that's a real battle. That's base one.
Yeah.
But once you get that attention, you've got to get to the point needs to be simple and you need to get to it. And instead of having people go, what did I just watch? What did I just see? Right.
Well, and there was an interesting dynamic I picked up on this year, and I don't know why I didn't notice it in the past. But the more involved a dialogue was, the more the people were wondering what the ad was about. And let me
Yeah.
draw a
Hmm.
contrast to that. If you saw Kia's ad with the ice skater, where she's doing her
Yeah.
figure skating in an arena, she finishes, she puts up her arms, she looks up at her dad, and there's an empty seat, and she has a disappointed look. And then dad takes her up in the Kia in some crazy snow mountains, right? Shows up at the grandfather's house. They just happen to have a pond out front
Right.
that is perfectly smooth and cleared off already so she can do her skating. And of course, she does her beautiful figure skating, and grandpa's right there and he writes a 10 on the window. And you did not need to hear one word of dialogue. And our whole group, they got quiet and they all loved it. Contrast that with Etsy,
Yeah.
and there was this whole discussion around what do the French like, and the ad's good. We're gonna let you know
Yeah.
that, but unfortunately, it didn't cause the room to get quieter. There was a lot of dialogue in our watch party, and so people didn't get what the ad was about because there was too much going on. I think BMW was another one with Christopher Walken. A couple people were they couldn't hear what was being said, so they missed the dialogue, which that in that case was everything to that ad
Yeah.
because of the way he talks. So in talking about what you're saying, I just wanted to tag on there.
Hmm.
The noise in the room, if you can't hear what's being said, can kind of make an ad successful or not successful in that moment, right?
Right.
In that moment. It doesn't mean it's not great advertising down the road, but in a watch party where you may not be able to hear,
Yeah.
dialogue's really important.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is it's really a chief difficult. The number one hurdle for the advertiser is to find a way to break preoccupation with
Hmm.
whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a big problem because the bigger the show, the more the distraction, the more these things get in the way. So silence amidst, I think that's why the nationwide that kid had got so much attention is all of a sudden it went like, whoa, it was totally different. And everybody, you
Yeah.
know, they passed the first bar, but the message wasn't one
Food
to go.
killer ad.
But I think that's a really now the problem I had with that spot because it tears at your hearts the way the Clydesdales when they first came on the stage did. Um, it's really hard, I think, for anyone to connect that to Kia
Right. Yep.
down the road. Like, who was that for? I don't know. It was just really, maybe it was for ice skating. Maybe it was for the Olympics. I don't know.
Well,
So,
and even the idea that was delivered was the power inside.
mhm.
It's not differentiating. It's like every other electric car commercial you see. They plug in the whatever they want to power up, whether it's a camping commercial for a truck I've seen, and everything that's electric has power within. So the message wasn't even differentiating. And I know
Yeah,
you're saying you're okay with setting aside the position a little bit, but like you said, now how am I going to connect the ice skater back to the particular brand
hmm,
that was Kia?
right.
So, you almost have to be in that case, it has to be so good. And it really did. It got a lot of chatter online. It was probably one of the top ones for
Yeah,
chatter
'cause
online.
it pulls at the heartstrings. Yeah,
Yeah. So from that standpoint, yeah, you'll get a pass right now, but down the road, are we going to remember that an ice skater who performed for grandpa up in the mountains is a Kia ad? Like, what's the
yeah.
connection?
Who, by the way, has a very lush, plush mansion to boot
In the
that
mountains.
doesn't relate to anybody
Yeah.
uh, except the 1%. Yeah, so here's my kind of standard is you have to break the preoccupation. Have you done that? Have you connected at least the name to whatever the story is, whatever you're saying? And if you go the third rail, meaning a third rail that's a good rail, and
Yeah.
you get a differentiating message, oh my God, that's gold,
Yeah.
right? But even if you get the first two where the brand connects and I get a great brand feeling, not just the connection, but I feel good about it. I
Mhm.
remember it, but I have a certain feeling that you want me to have. I think that's, if I got those two accomplished as working for one of these advertisers, I'd feel really good. If
Yeah.
I got the third, I'd feel like now we have a spot we can run past the Super Bowl and really start to get traction on persuading people to buy our product versus someone else's. So anyway, that's kind of where I ended up. But that's good discussion. So
Well,
all right,
the
my
good,
biggest winner and my goat this year was Doritos, a brand I have rarely liked their ads. Dynamita. I love that spot. I watch it a million times. I keep watching. I keep finding things to love about it. Uh, I think the most important thing is it's dynamita. It's not dynamite, and it's this. It's so Doritos. It's such the brand. The brand has established itself as having these comedic um, commercials over the many years, and it really seats the flavor as something that's this super limey kind of flavor. Um, I just really think that was a really good spot.
good.
Yeah.
Well, my big winner is State Farm with
Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. He did such a good job in that spot, and what I love about it is they play off their position in the way that he says it. So we know State Farm's your local, in your neighborhood insurance carrier. And what was the whole ad about? He wasn't able to say neighbor. It
Yeah.
was neighbor,
Name.
neighbor. And then to bring in Danny DeVito at the end as the payoff, I thought that was brilliant because did it get my attention? Absolutely. The ad opens with a house on fire and Arnold's carrying out the couple puppies and saving the day. And the whole time is just him unable to say certain words, and the way they kept using different words throughout was fantastic. Even closing the ad with Danny DeVito correcting him on saying a word that had an in it. Just really well done, connected to the position of neighbor, local, had the creative
Protecting you.
there. It was just fantastic in every way. So State Farm was my easy winner, and I have a couple others that did real well, but that's the one that stood out for me.
Yeah, I really thought that was a well done spot. I did have people that I know who like texted me and they were like, "Well, will younger people know the movie Twins and know the connection between Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger?" And I think again, a lot of the Super Bowl spots, which is annoying to me too, like the Verizon spot with Beyonce. I mean,
Oh,
they count on you. They count on you having some inside information. That's some ricochet piece of, I don't know, in the world of information. Like, I didn't know she broke the internet, supposedly. I guess that's what they were
yeah,
playing on. So here, like, people would have to know the movie Twins and that relationship to really get the full gist. But that aside, I would say that State Farm owns the Super Bowl. They own the NFL because they've had all these commercials throughout the season with Mahomes and with Andy Reid and different people over the years. Um, wasn't Aaron Rodgers once a spokesperson for them?
yeah, he's still involved. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So to me, they almost own the NFL in a way that Pepsi used to own when they sponsored the halftime. And so this spot really amped it up.
Oh,
And also it's one of the best examples, if our audience hasn't seen the teaser, to kind of the superhero kind of idea, and then it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, I think it's one of the best tee-ups with a delivery at the Super Bowl. So kudos to them. I think it's more than just about the spot. I think it's
yeah,
State Farm's total
yeah,
strategy.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good. So, what
Mhm.
other winners did you have? Name another one and talk a little bit about it.
Well, I really liked the BMW Christopher Walken, right? Because there's only one Christopher Walken and there's only one Ultimate Driving Machine. And, again, I had some people younger than myself reach out and say, we're kind of tired of the Christopher Walken jokes and he's kind of older but I don't think they're BMW ready yet.
Yeah, probably not.
All right. So, I mean, I think the people who buy BMWs really get the spot. I thought it was so well done.
Yeah.
And, it was simple. It was a simple idea. And like I said, the build up, it's kind of like the best ads create some sort of, they catch you in some way. They deliver a story and the punchline is the big takeaway and you connect that to the brand. And usually that's the brand and the position. So,
Well, speaking to generational differences, Skechers, right? You have to be my age or older to probably shop for Skechers, but Mr. T. I
yeah,
mean, no one much younger than me knows who Mr. T is, but they did a good job of there's no T in Skechers. It doesn't perfectly connect to the benefit of the shoe, but they did a pretty good job of the fact that he could do all these activities and just slip into the shoes. So it wasn't my favorite, but it also wasn't horrible. Just they nailed it from a generational standpoint because I remember the A team and Mr. T,
yeah,
and he was the dude. And now, unfortunately, he's advertising old people's shoes, but
yeah.
they nailed the demographic.
Well, and I think they nailed a couple of other things, so I give them a little more kudos. One, they nailed the name. I don't really care if there's a T in the name or not,
Right.
but it just the name just kept getting repeated. Skechers, Skechers.
Yep.
And I do think the slip-on ease, with kind of a cool looking shoe, really came across, right? Because visual, and then he's slipping it in and doing all these different activities. I agree with you that Mr. T might not, people might say, younger people, like, who is that guy? But I think it worked, and I don't think it was just gratuitous. In other words,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I still spell Skechers with a T though because I can't.
And here's another one. When we talk about demographic targeting, I'm going to say this one was a winner for psychographic or maybe even firmographic. So for those that don't know, firmographic is speaking to a particular business title. And CrowdStrike did it for me.
Yeah,
And I know a lot of people that aren't familiar with IT and cyber protection and all that. I have to worry about that as the head of a company. And so I'm in tune also because we do so many websites that we have to be watching that for our particular clients.
right.
So when I saw it, I thought, this is genius. They've painted a future that most of us think could very well come about. And it's one of those where you have cyborgs, you have holograms, you have this future that kind of is close, and yet it was far enough out there. It spoke to the future as to, we don't know exactly what the future looks like. And then the bad guys roll into town, right?
Right.
They look like cyborgs and monsters and you name it, all kinds of bad. They got the worst machine gun, or not even machine guns, laser guns, if you want to
Yeah.
call them. And very easily, a nonchalant, almost boring IT type walks up and says, I got this, walks out, opens up her hologram, presses a button, undresses the bad guys, they run out of town. Most people could care less about advanced cybersecurity, but I thought that ad was very well done because it spoke to me as someone who has to pay attention to those things.
Well, and here's what I liked about that, because I agree. I then broke some of my winners out by category. So in the tech category, right, I put CrowdStrike number one, and the reason is so many of these tech ads, whether aimed at firmographic, the job title, or aimed at even consumers, don't they're so obtuse. You don't know what they're talking about. They make it so technical, or that you are like, what is this thing? I don't even know what this is, right? And I hate when I walk away, and I hate when a commercial tells me I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, like you should know this. I don't think most people like that. That's why they get frustrated. But CrowdStrike took an idea and I don't know what you called it, amorphized it, or what would you call it?
Yeah.
Into a Western that anybody could understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was ingenious. It was great storytelling. And yet you could tell with the special effects that, oh my gosh, they're talking about something techie.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think it was a fantastic concept, well executed, and I put them number one in my tech category.
Very good.
Yeah.
What do you think of ELF? ELF.
I thought, what is it? Yeah, Judge Beauty, right? Instead of Judge, I laughed. I thought that was a great spot.
Yeah.
It's a very simple spot. I think that I didn't know what an elf was, to be honest. Again, it's one of these things. I had no idea what this product was. So to me, it got the product across, got the name across,
and the position.
Yeah, and I think Judge Judy is so ubiquitous in all generations. She's almost she crosses so many. So I really think that was probably one of the lower budget commercials, because there wasn't a lot of special effects, right?
It was a lot of celebrities though.
Yeah.
All those guys were from Suits.
Oh, that's right. The guys from Suits. I forgot.
That's kind of one of those retread ones that's trending right now.
Yeah. So I give that kudos. I think I gave them a silver in my analysis.
They got one of the winners from me, and I think part of it was my wife and I used to watch Suits all the time when it was in the original run.
Right.
And we love the actor at the end when Judge Beauty goes, "You're a putz."
You're a putz.
It was well done. I can't even imitate his face. He has one of those.
I know he does. Yeah.
That it's like Jim Carrey, those elastic faces that just make you laugh.
Yeah.
So that was really well done.
Yeah.
Hey, how about the snack category? Oreos and Reese's.
I thought, well, all right, Reese's wins. In the snack category, I have my Dynamita, but Reese's was 2.
Okay.
Reese's was second. I thought it was just perfect. And I love when they say, this isn't replacing the regular Reese's, is it? And it's
yes.
Yeah. But moreover, Reese's, like State Farm, right, has been so consistent. And they've done something that we'll come back to and talk about Dunkin'. The brand image with the way they've done the design on the Reese's billboard and the orange and the colors, they have just really owned kind of a mental image in addition to the spot, and they keep capitalizing on that. So I give it the win over M&Ms, and what was the other one you mentioned?
Oreos.
Yeah,
with Twist, I thought that was brilliant because I grew up doing that.
Yeah.
Decisions, and they connect it to world history. I didn't love the Kris Jenner thing. That was weird. but the Trojan horse and going back to the cavemen and the dinosaurs and making decisions based on whether it rolled right or rolled left. If I hadn't grown up doing that myself, I would have thought, this is a little weird. But how do you differentiate the snacks other than their actual essence, right? And Oreo is different than any other snack. Reese's is different. Nerds, that was another one, different than any other snack. So now it's about the fame, or
Yeah.
in this case, the action of doing it. And
Yeah.
that was a cultural connection that was well done.
Well, I kind of, this is what I didn't like about that. I love that Oreos has done that before, but their settings have been very intimate. If you remember, they had the commercial where the father is having to Skype or FaceTime with his son, and they turn the Oreo and they go through this behavior of sharing that. So they go from this very intimate experience, which I think everyone has and what you're talking to these epic kind of grandiose ideas, which I just, to me, it wasn't true to the Oreo brand.
Yeah.
And that's, I just thought, oh, here we go again. It's like the Knights of Bud Light. And, we're just kind of getting grandiose when I think the intimacy of Oreo is really where it's at for me. So I was not a fan of that one. The one I really disliked, I thought it was a complete, I don't know where they were doing. One, I don't know why they're advertising in a Super Bowl, but Mr. Drumstick.
Oh my
The
goodness.
drumstick, Dr. Drumstick. Oh.
Yeah, everyone in our watch party was like, what?
Yeah.
It was awful. Some guy on a plane having an emergency and everyone decides they're going to eat a drumstick. I mean,
it was just like, what is going on in this ad? And why? I don't even know really why they're in the Super Bowl, but because it seems like a weird product to me. And it's a novelty product, and it's not as universal as some other things. But I just thought that ad was a total. And plus, it doesn't help that in my free time, I spend time watching Mayday videos about plane crashes. So all I can think about, I'm on a plane that's crashing. I'm gonna watch drumstick.
Well, my biggest loser, besides the Kennedy ad, which we already talked about, was Starry.
Oh,
the soft drink, which was renamed from Sierra Mist. That was a stupid movie.
Oh, I didn't know it was renamed.
And Starry that was awful. It's some guy like crying so much. That was a mess. I don't know.
It was a mess. It was a mess. Who was the celebrity in that? There was a celebrity in that. Let me see.
She was next to Taylor Swift. What was her name? She was in the booth.
Ice Spice. The rapper. Yeah.
She was with Taylor Swift half the time. Whenever they showed Taylor Swift, they were hugging and jumping and being happy with one another. I'm going to put one in the weird category.
Yeah.
And it's just the product. And the way it was presented was Microsoft Copilot.
Yes.
They're showing all these wonderful creative things that people do, open businesses and write a script and code apps and all that. And then the payoff is my AI is going to do that for me. And I guess you could say, well, that way I don't need to go hire a programmer. I don't need to hire someone to write a business plan. But like, if you know anything about the energy around creativity, like we experience every day in an agency, that was just, that one creeps me out at the same time as just saying, I don't know that was the best way to execute on an AI system that takes away human activity.
Yeah, and I think separating, what you think about AI, I think what their message was that the AI would help you learn more, or like do your self tutorial, and you can be whatever you want to be or achieve whatever you want to achieve, apart from people telling you can't. But I thought it was way too complicated a spot. It's one of these things where I was saying, in the environment of the Super Bowl, it just is what, and because it has this AI kind of thing that people are unsure of, it was just too much, and so I rated it very lowly. Lowly, low.
Well, let's go to our split decisions, because
Yeah.
I know you have some that you liked and I didn't, and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Hmm.
So the one with the greatest cinematography, greatest production, greatest director for, in some people's opinion, Martin Scorsese's Squarespace ad.
Hmm.
Talk about that one.
Yeah, I'm a split decision on that. I when I first saw it, and I did watch it pre Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was an example of all these over techniques and things going on, and I couldn't follow the storyline. And of course, Scorsese is someone that everyone bows down to. Uh, so anything he does is kind of comes at a higher level. But as I watched it more, I really got the point, and I really got the joke, which was, your business isn't real unless you have a website. But again, I think it suffers from what uh, I just talked about, inside information. You'd
Uh-huh.
have to make sure that the majority of your audience know what Squarespace is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now
Yep.
we do, we're in the business, we know. But I would tell you that if I took 10 people randomly, they probably 9 of them or 8 of them wouldn't know what Squarespace is.
Right.
So and so they waited to the very end, and even then it isn't clear exactly that it's websites.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm mixed on it. I thought the concept was interesting. I guess as I think on it more, um, I wouldn't I wouldn't rate it as a successful commercial.
Yeah. And I was a definite negative. What part of it was Squarespace doesn't even show up as a brand till the very
Mhm.
end, and you could have
Right.
thrown apps on there, you could have
Yeah.
thrown Google Sites on there. I mean, it could have been about anything, and I think it was a failure of overproduction.
Right.
Like, the whole thing was,
Well said. Well
the
said.
world is not paying attention to the aliens, and so
Right.
we need to get your attention, and then that's supposed to connect to your customers are supposed to pay attention to, they will pay attention once you have a website. Like,
Yeah.
too much thinking there, even
Yeah.
thinking down the road, and then going to that guy in the car. Like, you could have cut that scene and added more in to make it more about building websites. But anyhow, we'll go
In the
past
car,
that
the
one.
guy in the car, Scorsese.
Yeah.
Denise, that's Scorsese.
I
Right.
but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point. It's
Mhm.
almost like, because he's in there, right? It
Yeah.
it went it just went too far. We got the point that now people are paying attention to the aliens, and he was kind of the final one. But I don't
The
know.
joke, the joke is great. The joke that we are so distracted and so on our devices, right? That if you're not on that device with a website,
Yeah,
you're not real.
yeah,
That's really funny. It is a really funny concept. You're so distracted you don't even notice aliens above you.
right, right.
But yeah, it is. You said it. It's a failure of overproduction. It takes more viewing and more times. So what I would do, if that I would build on that concept and do multiple commercials around it.
Well, you
And
have to get to their difference, though,
right.
because you can
Oh,
throw
sure.
on there, or you can throw something else.
Hmm.
There's no differentiation to it, right?
Right.
And I know you're saying with the Super Bowl, it's good that the brand was there and they got the
Yeah.
exposure. But if they are going to take it further, which, actually there's a little bit of a storyline there, they could probably do that. But I'm going to judge it a downer for me, a loser.
Yeah, I mean, if they had a credential like Squarespace, the number one website builder for small business or something that just says, oh, I'm a small business, I should want that. But that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't abandon the concept. I think I would perfect it because I think there's something there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Good. How about Popeyes with Ken Jeong?
I tell you, I liked it better in the pre-lease when I was not distracted than in the Super Bowl commercial because what I missed when it ran within the environment was that this guy, I don't know if they said how long he was under cryogenics.
I didn't pick it up. I
Right.
knew
And
that
then, yeah.
froze.
And then I think what they lost was that he had been waiting specifically for Popeyes to do wings, not just for a better wing, but for Popeyes because they would make a better wing. And I think that got lost.
Hmm.
So, I demoted it as like honorable mention.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that one for me was, except for Ken Jeong, who I like. I think
Yeah.
he's hilarious. Just not wasn't a fan of that one. Um, our final split decision was E-Trade
Hmm.
babies. What was your take on that one?
Well, I really liked the Return of the Babies. I thought that was great. I thought it was really funny that they connected it to pickleball.
Yeah, that's
Right.
every generation now, right?
Yeah. And I guess what's good about it, and I didn't rate it, I'm trying to see what I gave it, maybe a bronze, um, was just that the babies needed to come back. They kind of left them and again, it's like this thing we were talking about Squarespace. You establish kind of this, your own kind of iconography around these aliens and this storyline. The babies are so part of it. So I guess I was just really happy to see him back. I know what E-Trade does. I do agree. Something you said to me earlier, pre this episode, was that it gets a little too complicated in the story,
The
and
script was,
it detracts. It
yeah.
detracts. Yeah.
Yeah, to me it was, are you advertising the category or are you advertising E-Trade?
Yeah.
Because there was enough in there. In fact, I think the closing line was something about start investing. Well,
Yeah.
anybody
That was
can
weird.
say that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to talk about E-Trade, meaning easy trade. That's the
Right.
whole point
That's
there.
the whole
Make
thing.
it easier, which there were a few lines from one of the babies that said about how easy it was, but you got to camp out on that and make that
Well, they
easier.
could have capitalized on that by saying the whole time they were winning, like easy point, easy score, easy serve, right? I mean, they could have really brought that in relative to the pickleball thing and easy trading, and I
Yeah.
think it would have been more successful. But they
Yeah.
were sharing some highfalutin kind of investor stuff that was like, you know, over most people's head, certainly within the context of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Hmm. Yeah.
So let's go to the Heartstrings Awards. I had two of those. I'll start with the first one because it's a little techy, but happen to have a good friend in the area who's visually impaired and
Yeah.
got the Google Pixel 8, um, the vision assistive way that they did that. I just thought it was great. They showed what it's like for someone with vision impairment and how the Google Pixel 8 could help that. So I thought that was well done. It pulled on the heartstrings because you feel for the guy, and then to end it with the guy getting his wife and his baby in the picture right after birth, I just thought that was a beautiful spot.
Yeah, this is a spot that has enormous legs after the Super Bowl. It really solves a real problem, and you don't have to be blind. You can just have visual impairment.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I was wondering where you're going with heartstrings because I kind of had it under tech. I think it's a great, super great. What I really think is great, and if I were at Apple, I'd be a little afraid, right? Is Google keeps bringing to their phone meaningful advancements that improve life
Mhm.
for the user. And this is one of the examples. And meanwhile, Apple keeps making ridiculous, um, superficial design changes that result in me having to buy new chargers.
Yeah.
Um, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
Apple has lost its mojo, in my opinion, on the phone. And I'm like sitting there thinking, why do I have an iPhone? I should have a Google Pixel.
Get one of these. This is the
Yeah.
Google Pixel 5. I'm about to upgrade.
So I'm just like, why did I just sign up for a new Apple? I mean, really, I think they're starting to take hold of the category. And
Mm.
if Apple, I'd get my act together
Yeah.
and stop messing around with design and superficial stuff and start really thinking about what Steve Jobs thought about. I mean, he wanted a beautiful device, but he wanted it to really be something people had to have with them because it was so useful every
Yeah.
day. It was a fashion. He made it fashionable, so you'd want to carry it. That was the genius, but it did make your life better. So,
Well, speak to the other heartstrings award on my list, which was Dove.
yeah.
I think you can speak to that much better than I can as an
Mhm.
athlete, female athlete,
Yeah.
which who they were reaching out to.
Yeah. I think it was a beautiful spot. There's absolutely no negative to the spot whatsoever. The only thing I would say that in context with transgenders playing in women's sports, it was kind of an interesting spot, advocating in particular not just body image, but body image related to girls dropping out of athletics at 14. And well, what's going to make you drop out any faster than a transgender competing in your space? And I know that gets a little political, but that is the context with
Yeah,
this ad came in. So I was wondering what the conversation is about that on a bigger. It's a beautiful spot. It's beautiful, and it's
yeah,
very consistent with the Dove brand. This is where they've been for many years. Now, the only thing that's weird about it too, from a Dove brand, is, and I don't know how they've been able to do this from a positioning standpoint. I guess it's if the mind lets you go there, if someone's mind is Dove for men, right? So it's kind of like I'm just strategically always wondering, this is working for them and why it
yeah.
should, you know what I mean? But like I know all my son-in-law, my son, they all buy Dove for men,
Huh,
so they don't buy Old Spice. So like, how did this happen? So I'm just it's kind of a question for me.
good. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about what we would consider one of I would call it one of the most well-positioned ads we saw. It's a
Hmm.
new brand. They're a new advertiser on the Super Bowl, and
Hmm.
that's Poppy Soda.
Yeah.
You and I talked about that a little bit before we hopped on the podcast. And you talked about setting aside positioning in some cases. This is a new brand. They had to position themselves,
Absolutely.
and I
Absolutely.
think they absolutely nailed it. I haven't seen the soda category disrupted unless I'm forgetting something since 7 Up came out with their Uncola back in 1968. Now I wasn't around then, but I remember when we've talked about the 7 Up ads coming out and how they took the Coke bottle and it had a pouch on it and they unzipped it and you saw the clear 7 Up and the deep Bahamian or Jamaican voice that spoke to it. And that was the last time I feel like there was a disruptor in the category.
Right.
Here comes Poppy Soda with their, you're going to rethink what soda is all about and it's all healthy for you. What was your take on that? It wasn't a sexy, like glorifying ad, but the message was so clear.
Yes, it was. And here's the difference, right? If you're an established brand, everybody knows what Dunkin' Donuts is about,
Mhm.
right? So Dunkin' can get away with what they did because it's the brand exposure in that commercial with the way they had Dunkin' everywhere was freaking genius. I think that is the best brand exposure. But people, a large amount of the market know what to expect from Dunkin' and
Right.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yep.
So you don't have to get. You can just be in that case create a vibe and fun and kind of fascination again around the brand without having to like our donuts are better than someone
Yeah.
else's because right. But when you're new, like Poppy, you do have to have a position. You have to have a reason for coming into the market. I think it was a brilliant ad, super competent, probably one of the most effective. I
Yeah.
think ultimately it's creating a whole new category in soda, right? It's really a subcategory that now they own because I don't think
Healthy
of
soda.
Pepsi owning that.
Mm.
And interestingly, Coke and Pepsi were usually what's kept their rivalry alive has been the Super Bowl. Both were gone.
Yeah.
Both were vanished.
Yep.
So in this space of like no sound, what white space comes Poppy, and they say none of the bad stuff. We're soda, but we have none of the bad stuff that anybody else has. Genius strategy, very well executed, not overproduction, just enough, clever enough to be engaging. I think it's the absolute best first entry of any. The other brands were Nerds and Lindt, which were
Right.
very respectable in their first Super Bowl, but this one definitely took it by storm. And no teaser, there was no pre-release, right?
I
No.
didn't know it was coming. There were maybe 6 ads that were not pre-released that I noticed. Zeem was another one, some streaming local stuff. This Poppy ad.
Mhm.
They did a teaser for State Farm, but they didn't have the ad that I could find anywhere. So there were a few of them.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do some more research on Poppy, but boy, that's awfully close to Pepsi. Poppy, Pepsi. It's kind of you go, there was a
Yeah.
play there. Someone was thinking through something, but I'm not even sure how that would play out
I
being
don't know.
like that.
Yeah. Maybe we'll find out it has like stuff in it that poppies have in them. It doesn't have sugar, but it has some other stuff.
Yeah, it has some other good stuff.
Yeah.
Good.
Now,
Well,
Timo. We didn't talk about Timo.
oh, yeah, it's Temu.
Timo.
Yeah,
Timo.
and on the commercials, like everyone around here calls it Temu. On the commercials, it was Temu.
Oh,
So it's a short E instead of
yeah.
a long E. Temu, they were the most voluminous. I counted 3 times that they ran their ad, 2 different ads. They ran one twice and another one just once. And they had a good line at the end, shop like a billionaire.
And their ads were very Disney-esque. I
Yeah.
mean, I felt like a Frozen, and the song was really captivating.
Yep.
Here's the problem. I think the ads were great.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know what I know about this brand, it's a Chinese company,
Mm-hmm.
and watch out, because they have a C+ and a Better Business Bureau. They're under investigation because they either don't deliver products, take your money, or the products that come. I just had a friend who bought some sort of slipper or something, and there was some sort of caustic chemical on it, and it irritated her feet. It was terrible. They have all these. I mean, I think people who know them don't trust the brand, and this didn't help me trust the brand.
Well,
So,
someone called out in our watch party, well, there goes your identity.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I hope this ad, and this could be a public service message for those listening. I'd be very cautious about buying anything, because shopping like a billionaire could end up cleaning out your bank account. So just be careful.
Someone else is making a billionaire.
Right, someone else. They're going to take your identity, and so it's a very untrustworthy company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the celebrities, we have a winner and a loser. I think Addison Rae for Nerds gets the winner because just the teaser alone had over 600 million views.
Wow.
She has 88 million TikTok followers, 30 million Instagram followers, and her teaser got 600 million views. I can't even imagine what the spot did. Of course, the spot was more focused on the candy.
Right.
She just shows up at the end. If you know both, the whole point of the ad and the teaser together was she was coaching someone to dance.
Okay.
And know from the ad that it was the big nerd candy that's dancing and then pulls the little things on top. That was the whole point. So I guess from the standpoint of reach, she gets kudos for that. And it's the right demographic because she's a Gen Z influencer.
Yeah.
On the negative side, those Jeffrey Goldblum commercials for homes.com and apartments.com, that was the worst advertising.
Well, homes.com, and I guess I had to research this, and apartments.com are owned by the same company.
Yep.
And that's why Goldblum shows up in the ad with David Levy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I was totally confused on homes.com. Like, what is this about? Now, my son, who's obviously 30 years younger than me, was like, hey, I really like that homes.com. I'm like, do you even know what it is? What do they do?
Yeah.
I'm like totally confused. I thought that was one of those examples of way too much, just over excess. And I agree with you. I'm not a fan of those. Certainly from an effectiveness standpoint, maybe people enjoy all that over the top stuff that's going on. I couldn't figure out what was going on in homes.com.
Well, I did the Super Bowl commercial test that I talk about and waited about 5 minutes. I said, hey, what ad was it where the champagne cork was blasting through the office building? They're like, I don't know. No clue.
What are they doing with it? Yeah.
talk about overproduction and under messaged, and it had a lot wrong with it. Now I will say we do the homework for you. They could
Yeah.
build on that and do something with it, but they got to simplify that message. I mean, holy cow, he's in the middle of a football team huddle as a mascot and then running off the field with someone chasing him, and
Yeah.
it was I don't know, scratch your head worthy because I didn't get that.
Well, somewhere my son in the conversation said, well, the idea that the teacher ratio to student was brought up
Yeah.
in there. And most people look at that when they're buying a home. I'm like, huh? like I, you haven't bought a home. I've bought 4 homes and I never looked at that.
Yeah, right.
Talking about like
Yeah.
that was, that was just like one of those things.
Yeah.
He also liked that, and I thought it was, it didn't, it reminded me of the old Bud Light commercials, the Kawasaki
Yeah, the what?
mullet thing,
Yep. That
all business in the front, fun in the back. I don't, it's like, oh, okay.
well, that failed the Super Bowl commercial test as well, because about 5 minutes after that, the whole room laughed when they watched it. But I waited about 5 minutes. I said, "Hey, who was that mullet commercial for?" And they could not name the
I could
brand.
not name it. Yeah.
They named that it was. They said it was a vehicle of some sort. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
that helps.
come on, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
So
that's worth $7 million
yeah,
plus production, 10 million. Yeah, you liked I entertained you for a split
well,
second.
and honestly, think about
Mhm.
how they executed that. So business in the front, okay, so
Mhm.
engine in the front, but their notion of a party in the back was taking firewood and picking it up and putting it in
Yeah,
the back.
fun in the back. Like I'm like, what
Like
fun?
party in the back. I mean, yeah, you're going to go have a fire with this thing, but that's not usually the notion of what party in the back means. So
Yeah.
that one failed for me.
I don't know. It was just it. Yeah, I think it's an easily forgettable ad, and I think that was the problem with the Kia Skater ad is that you're not going to connect it. Now, I know there's an ad that you weren't really fond of, and I'm not really fond of the ad, but I understand what they were doing, and I think it was very effective. And that was the Michael Cera for CeraVe
Yeah.
because and they got across the idea of the moisturizer of this product really well. I buy CeraVe, but I never know how to pronounce it. I never remember the name. Like people say, "Well, what do you use?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It starts with a C, and the container looks like this." So I really think they knew they had a name problem, and so they solved it. And I think that's where the celebrity really fit the product in
Got
that way.
it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say most people missed that because everyone in our watch party was like, "Huh?" I
yeah,
didn't I didn't pick up on that. It was just there was again a lot of production in that. But
yeah,
overall this was a decent year. I wouldn't call it the best year for advertising. I was so glad that we didn't have all the social commentary and uh, it- other than the Kennedy ad, there weren't any politics. It
right,
was actually an enjoyable, like entertaining game. It was entertaining ads with
right,
decent ads in there. I, I would call it a successful Super Bowl ad effort this year. That
right.
would be my take on it.
So we did talk about losers. You got your Starry, right, with Ice Spice, and I
Yeah,
thought so.
Mountain
Uh,
Dew was another one.
yeah,
We love Parks and Rec, and they had two of
yeah,
the actors from Parks and Rec on there. But this whole thing about blasting off with Mountain
yeah.
Dew, I'd rather just blast that one back into the agency and tell them to try again.
Now in the gambling category, I thought that beat MGM
Oh,
with
bet MGM. Yeah,
I thought they beat FanDuel and the
yeah,
ground kickoff.
yep.
I thought that was a really well done spot. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure it's gonna. If those who like to bet, I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna relate to that.
Yeah, when I was down at WHBC this morning, Billy Bean happens to like that actor that was
Vince
saying
Vaughn.
everybody, yeah, uh,
Yeah,
everyone except Tom Brady,
yeah,
and he liked that. He called that one out as one of his favorites, and
yeah. I think it was a very. I think I gave that a silver. It was a very good ad. And then in the delivery category, I thought DoorDash beat Uber Eats. I didn't get the Uber Eats concept at first. I was like, what is going on? But DoorDash, but I'd be interesting to do some follow up, Mark. They had that contest where you could get all these products that were advertised for free. It was a sweepstakes. So it
Yeah.
was a very good use of a promotion to demonstrate what DoorDash does better than I think Uber Eats. And of course, DoorDash, that is their business. Uber Eats was first a drive service and now is trying to expand. So they're kind of at a disadvantage. They're kind of trying to play catch up. But I heard that there was some problem with signing up for the sweepstakes and or
Really?
crash. Yeah.
Okay.
So, when people do these things and like that QR code for the
Oh,
crypto,
Coinbase. Yeah,
right,
Coinbase a couple
and
years
they
ago.
don't make sure that technologically they can handle it, that becomes, they lose all the value they got from the promotion. I'm not saying that happened. I just heard that and I hadn't had a chance I have
Well,
not had a chance to look into it.
yeah, those two brands are curious to me because I think Uber has its own problem. Uber really achieved brand nirvana because when you say you're going to get a new type of taxi, you don't go, I'm going to get a new type of taxi. You're going to go, are you going to Uber that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So achieve that. Well, then they didn't have enough for their drivers to do full time. So they went into Uber Eats, which makes sense. So now you're delivering food, but they're beyond food. They want to deliver everything you forgot.
Yeah.
And the mix of talent in that one with David Schwimmer, Jennifer Aniston, Beckham's, like how do
Yeah.
the
Beckons. Yeah.
relate to those guys? They have their own issue, but the whole point was we deliver everything. Well, what was DoorDash's point? We deliver everything.
Yeah.
So you have this, we deliver everything, one coming from originally a restaurant delivery service, one coming from a taxi service. Like they're trying to move into spaces that they're just going to end up having a
But the
crowd.
one who started with we deliver wins versus we are a ride share.
Ride share, right.
Right. That's why Uber's kind of, they're trying, and I'm not saying they can expand there, but it's a little harder stretch.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I would never think of Uber to deliver me food, or I do think, what do you think? Right off the mind, DoorDash. But I wouldn't think of DoorDash to take me to the airport. So this is, I think that's just how simple the mind is. It just makes these quick.
But that's where I'm saying they're doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so how that plays out will be interesting. You're right. DoorDash has a better opportunity here, but
Yeah.
the Uber Eats I forget that I need
That's something to remember. Uber Eats delivers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work on me.
Yeah. You didn't call out two of your favorites, or I would call them, I think, bronze or silvers, Lint and Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I thought Lint made a really good first showing. It was a very simple ad, right? And they had that Perry Como song.
Yeah.
It's really charming. And I think it was a good first showing. I think one of the things in the context of the Super Bowl, as I saw it, I might actually bring it down to an honorable mention for the Super Bowl, is the Perry Como song was so quiet and sweet. It's like it didn't, right? You have to kind of break the preoccupation. It was better when I looked at it pre Super Bowl in its own space, but I think it'll play very, very well for them after Super Bowl. And it was a credible first showing, just like I thought Nerds made a credible first showing. I know what I want to say. Hellman's and Jif, and I didn't see the Jif ad in the Super Bowl.
It was not in the Super Bowl.
Okay, because
unless the local replaced it in our market, we didn't see Jif and we didn't see the Stoke cold brew ads that we're supposed to run.
Right. Well, let me say this about Hellman's and Jif. Strategically, those are smart moves. They're both trying to expand the market by expanding usage of the product. When you're a leader, and Hellman's is the leader in mayonnaise, and Jif is the leader in peanut butter, you want to increase usage, and you can do that by getting more people in, or if you think you've maxed there, you get people to do more things with your product. And so both ads strategically attempted that. One was save your leftovers, and then save your celery.
Yep.
right? So I thought that was kind of interesting that they took it the same path. And so I applaud that strategically because it's kind of like it's what a leader should do and only a leader can do. So I
Mhm.
thought that was interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one with Lint, the only question I had is why do I care that your chocolate is in a ball? You know, they had a little snippet in there where they show the chocolate maker doing
Mhm.
that and the higher end chocolate that supposedly they are, but turning it into life as a ball or chocolate in a ball shape. That was my only downside on
Well,
that.
they're competing with Godiva, and if you've ever bought these, they are in balls. So
Yeah.
that's the way the product is delivered.
Mhm.
So yeah, I didn't have a problem with that because it kind of delivers on, you know,
Well, yeah, what they are.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was just calling that out. Yes, we get that it's a ball.
yeah,
Why should I care is the question, but
yeah,
no, it's chocolate, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna get too involved with that. So the last one, and my daughter is curious on your take on this one because she happened to like this, was Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
With all the different actors and the anime and the big mountain. What was your take on this one?
I uh I love the spot.
Good.
I within the category of channels advertising themselves, like Hulu, Disney bundle. I don't know who else did one. Um, Paramount. It just was brilliantly written,
Mhm.
and what's his name? Stewart is
Yeah.
what's his first name? Is it Patrick?
Yeah, Sir Patrick
Sir
Stewart. Yep.
Patrick Stewart. He was amazing. The casting was great. It was funny, but it really, I think, if you're going to be in the entertainment business, you better know how to do entertaining well. And so I rated it as my highest, and I think I gave it in my list here. I think I rated it, yes, a silver. Yeah.
Very good.
And
Yeah,
only because it's such a big story and there was so much going on that
yeah.
you'd have to really uh, you'd really have to stick with it. But it got my attention and I stuck with it all the way through to when that poor little whatever creature, I forget what it was, um,
It's the
hit that.
mountainside. Yep.
And then everybody, if you went online, they all said, "Did they forget he climbs?"
Yeah. Well, and I was like, well, wait a second. If you're a mountain of entertainment, you've conquered the mountain. Why are you not achieving? Like at the
Yeah.
very beginning, you have what's the Buffalo Bills quarterback? Logan Allen.
No, Tua was, it was the Miami, not my, yeah, Miami,
Was it
2-0
okay?
second. Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't remember who it was, but
can't pronounce his last
able
name.
to get
So,
not able to reach it, and then they're
Mhm.
throwing this guy up there, and he doesn't make it. Like you didn't accomplish the mountain, so I'm
Yeah,
confused by the message. That was the
yeah,
reason I didn't give him the
yeah,
top thing. And my daughter agreed. She goes, "Yeah, I guess that didn't make a lot of sense," but she liked everything else around it. So
yeah,
she'll be in your camp. She probably gave it a silver plus.
yeah, yeah. So I
Very
thought it was great.
good. Excellent. Well, we'll draw this one to a close.
Yep.
Thanks for hanging out with us for over an hour this time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you appreciate the commentary. We'd really like to hear from you. So, on the screen is an email you can send to. We'd love to hear your comments about the Super Bowl ads, what you thought. We know this chatter will die down here within a week. And so, if you think about it now, let us know what you're thinking. In the meantime, join us next week for another episode of the Brand Shorthand Podcast. If you haven't liked, shared, commented, shout it from the Super Bowl mountaintop. We'd really appreciate if you did that. And until then, have an amazing day.
Nobody's business but my own.